So today's video, I am going to be telling a story time. I was watching my 20 facts about me video back, and in it I talked about how I used to do a lot of sports when I was younger, and one of the sports that I kind of stopped suddenly was swimming, and I kind of said that an incident happened when I stopped swimming, and I thought I would do a story time where I talked about that. I do apologise for my lack of videos or my upload schedule being a bit chaotic for the last few days. I'm actually trying to slowly get myself back into routine with YouTube. I've just had a few things kind of going on, so my routine and schedule with YouTube has been kind of thrown off, and I'm trying to slowly get myself back into YouTube, so please bear with me while I do that. So I did end up talking about this in my 20 facts about me, but I did a few sports before I did swimming, and that is kind of important because it is kind of what led up to the swimming and stuff. But when I was younger, about 2004, 2005 and 6, I was doing gymnastics. I did gymnastics for about 2 years, I believe. And basically after I finished gymnastics, I ended up doing soccer through my primary school. I did soccer for about 2 years again, I think a year and a half, 2 years I would say. And I ended up stopping doing soccer because in my team it was only me and one other girl, and she ended up deciding to leave because she actually wanted to go do something else, and I was like, I don't want to be the only girl in this team. And I think I might have stayed through most of it. I think I did stay for a little while and then I eventually quit. I remember for some reason continuing to do soccer even though she wasn't there. And yeah, I do remember doing soccer for a little bit. So I think about 2.5 years of soccer. And then I ended up going into swimming. And the thing is with the swimming, I did it for about a year and a half. I would say about a year in total. I don't exactly know how long I was there for, but I do remember that I was probably in my second to last year of primary school, because I remember my last year of primary school, I was doing a few sports with my school during PE. I actually went to like a volleyball tournament thing. I played with other schools in soccer. I didn't do like what I did when I was younger, where I would actually have like soccer training after school and play games on Sundays. I was doing it through PE. So during the day I would go with some of the girls in my class, and we would go to other schools and we would play against other teams and stuff, and that was really fun. I think that was my last year of primary school, because there were certain girls I remember in my team that were there but they weren't for when I went to high school. And I remember this one time we played against this one school, and we went to this one like soccer pitch, and I just remember being a bit like confused because we went to the school and they had like their own little oval, but we ended up going somewhere else. We went to the soccer pitch and it was like in a middle, like a empty kind of lot. It was like around the soccer field was all these like iron fences, and if I can, I'll try and find a photo of these fences I'm talking about. But basically the soccer field was very, like, the grass was not very well done. It was obviously like more of a community council set up kind of soccer pitch, and I don't know why we didn't play on this other field because it looked really nice. It was like a proper field, so maybe it was like maybe it was because the primary school, and I think the primary school and the high school were connected and we couldn't, or something. I can't remember. But I remember whenever I played soccer, I used to play defense, and I remember being one of the defenders with another girl on my team in front of this goalkeeper. And I just remember, because obviously as a defender you're not like actively running after the ball, you kind of have to stay in with the goalkeeper, obviously, to defend the goal. And I just remember standing there talking to the girls in this like the three of us, And I just remember looking around, and something, I remember at one point it was so on the other side for so long that the goalkeeper just sat down. She was like, I'm just gonna sit and wait because like it's taking a while. And I was like, honestly, I probably want to as well, but I can't because it could turn around really quick. And I was too anxious to sit down because I was worried I wouldn't get up fast enough or something would happen and get in trouble. I just remember looking around this field, and like the grass was like patchy. The field was very, like the spray paint of the field was coming off. The goals didn't have like the netting on it. It was like those old kind of like, obviously like for public use kind of field. Like it was not a proper school, upkept, like professional kind of thing. It was very like just whenever people want to come here, and you know, you don't even have to use it as a soccer pitch, you can just use it as that. So that's kind of my experience with soccer, but I remember that field. I think about it a lot because I just want to know why we played there. Like that was a question I had, because I remember seeing when we got to the school, we saw the other team playing, like just shooting goals and doing like training practices. And I remember being like, oh my god, it looks so nice here, because the oval was surrounded by gum trees. And it was this like kind of cloudy, gloomy day as well. So that's why playing at this one pitch felt kind of ominous, because there was all these like iron fences, and the houses were a bit like, it was a bit of a weird like, not to like shame anyone or anything like that, but the houses weren't the most upkept or modern. They were very run down, like not great looking houses, and then the fences weren't great either. So it was just a really weird little, it was such a weird thing. I just remember being like, why are we playing here? Because I remember we got there and I was like, oh, we're gonna go and play on that field, and then we were like, no, we're gonna walk down the street and play here. And I was like, what the hell? After I finished doing soccer with my school, like after school soccer, like with the actual team and stuff, I did swimming. And I don't really remember how my dad brought up that I was going to do swimming, but he basically got me to do swimming at one of our local swimming centres. And I did look it up, and the swimming centre does still run. So I'm like, okay, because in my head I thought they had like shut down or something, not because of me, but I just remember being like, oh, surely it can't still be going, because it was a bit weird when I was there. And I'm gonna be honest, every time I talk to my dad about this incident, he seems to be a bit off about it. He like kind of doesn't, he gets a bit like, oh.
Like, yeah, like that swimming centre, and this is that swimming centre.
He gets a bit funny about it. So I kind of don't know, like, from my experience, I only remember certain things, because obviously I was probably about 10 years old at the time, 10 or 11 years old. And I just don't know fully what my dad saw in comparison to what I witnessed, because obviously I was a child, I wasn't fully aware of what was going on. So my dad might have witnessed or had some experiences at this place even before my incident, or maybe the way they handled the incident, maybe the way they corresponded with my dad, maybe that wasn't great and that's why he's not the happiest. Anyway, so I started doing my lessons, and at the point of my like incident, I'm gonna call it incident, I think I was in the third group during this time of my incident. So there were different groups that you were in, and I feel like this is pretty common for people who do swimming lessons or anything swimming, but there was like different groups. So I think the first group was like the starfish, and it was like just kind of getting the basics, getting used to the water, and then you would go up to the next group and then the next group, and I think the highest group was like the dolphins or the sharks or something, and I think that was more for like kids who could actually do laps and stuff. So I was probably in the third group, and I remember every time I would go up a group, you would get a certificate, and they'd be like, congratulations, Eve graduated and she's in this group. And I remember looking at this certificate, and it definitely had to be in my last year of primary school, because I remember when I was looking at it, it was in my old bedroom, and that was the bedroom that I had before I moved into my brother's bedroom in high school. My brother moved out when I was in my first year of high school, and I moved into his Long story short, our neighbours next door, the old house that used to sit next to us, basically got demolished, and they've built this 2-story house. And the 2-story house blocks out my old bedroom window, so my room would be really dark. It still is. It is such a dark room in the house. Like, even if you don't have the light on, it's so dark. You can have the blinds open as far. It's just, you look out the window and it's a brick wall. It's really depressing. So when my brother moved out, I moved into his, because his room actually had a little bit of sun. It was like, you could just see the fence with like the plants and stuff like that. So I was like, I'll take that over a brick wall. We were waking up early in a winter morning or something. It was awful. It was so dark in that room, and it was not great, especially because it was like my first year of high school, last year of primary school. I think that's around the time my mental illnesses really started developing, and just trying to get up in the morning was really hard because the room was so dark. I was like, I need a room with a lot of light. So I moved. So I do remember looking at the certificate on my bedroom floor, and I remember I kept it in a folder because I was like, I have a certificate, that's so cool, look at my certificate. I had a few little certificates from different things I did with my school and stuff, so I think I just had a little folder. I don't know what's happened to that. I kind of worry what may have ended that. But the day of the incident, I'll get into the story time, sorry. So the day of the incident, my dad had, basically with my lessons, my dad would come in and he would sit on the side, and they would have like benches where parents could sit. And I remember my dad would always read the newspaper while I was during my lessons. Like, I remember looking at him every once in a while, trying to find him. I remember during this lesson, we started off in our usual spot, but we ended up getting told, like, it wasn't us being told this, but our teacher got told that she had to move because they had a mums and bubs group come in and they needed the area, because basically we were based at the not the lower end of the pool, because we had to move to the deeper end of the pool, and that's what happened. So we were over here, so we were on this corner of the pool, and we had to get moved to the opposite corner of the pool, so we had to go kind of diagonal to where we were. So we ended up moving over there, and when we moved over there, my teacher was like, oh, I have to go grab something, and asked one of the other instructors, one of the male instructors, to watch us while she went out and got us like our little paddle boards and all the things that we needed. And yeah, I hadn't been at my lesson probably for very long. I think this was like within the first like 20-30 minutes of my lesson. And we were all kind of waiting around, and I was holding on to like the edge of the pool, and I had my feet sitting on like those little steps that they have on the inside of the pool, and there was all these different ledges. And I was like, I want to see how deep this side of the pool is, because if you guys don't know, I'm 5'1", so I've always been a bit of a short girl. And because we were on the deeper end, I was like, how much deeper actually is it? So I basically was holding onto the edge, and I decided to like kind of step down, and I touched the bottom, and with the pool, it was like the side, there was like a curve from where it went to the floor to the wall. And I remember putting my foot there, and I felt something sharp touch my foot. And at this point, I'm like, oh, that kind of hurt. I stepped on something. I could feel something under my foot. My foot started hurting, and I was like, what have I stepped on? I looked down into the pool. Next to my foot as well, there was like a bobby pin had floated down to the bottom of the pool. And then I look at my foot, and I can see, like, you know when you see blood in water, it's like that cloud? I can see that coming out of my foot. And I'm like, oh, that's not good. I end up looking up, and I look up to the instructor, and I'm like,
sir, I've stepped on something.
what? What have you done?
There's something at the bottom of the pool. My foot's bleeding.
Like, your foot's bleeding?
Yeah, I've stepped on. There's a bobby pin at the bottom of the pool. I've stepped.
Get out. Like, get out of the pool. So I end up getting out of the pool. And at this point I get out and I remember pulling up my foot and I remember looking at it and it's like, it's not heavily bleeding because obviously I've gotten out of the pool so it's probably washed away my blood. But I look and you can see a sliver of the bobby pin, the hairpin. I don't know what it was. It was like a hairpin. It was like a giant bobby pin looking thing, but it was like a big hair accessory. A bit of that was in my toe. And I'm like, oh, great. And it was a tiny little bit. It was like probably as long as like a stapler piece. Like it was probably as thin and like the same length as a stapler, if that makes any sense. So that was in my foot. I could see it sticking out a little bit. And I'm starting to be like, oh, this is not good. And I'm starting to freak out because it hurts. I'm bleeding. I'm starting to panic because I'm like, there's something in my foot. Help. So he ends up taking me out and we end up going into the like first aid room. And I remember as this is happening, I can see one of the people trying to go and flag down my dad as I'm getting taken into the thing. And I remember my dad being like, where's she going? And I went into the thing and they end up looking at it and they're like, we can take it out now or you can go home. And I'm freaking out because I don't like anyone or anything. I'm very weird with certain things, certain people touching my feet. I don't like people touching my feet. I'm very weird with it. So basically at this point, my dad ends up getting told like, oh, she can have it taken out now or we can take it out, she can go to a hospital, like what do you want to do? And I'm freaking out and I'm like, I don't want you touching it, like I'm like throwing, like I'm getting upset. And my dad's like, we'll take her home, I'll do it at home, it's okay, I'll deal with it. Because I was panicking, I was like, I don't want these people touching my feet. And I wanted my dad to deal with it. I was like, can my dad do it? So my dad ends up taking me home and I remember I don't even remember. So the thing about this memory is I don't remember the point of leaving the place and getting to the car. I don't know how I walked to that car, but I got in the car and I remember with our lessons we had to wear like those rubber band bracelets and it would say like swimming lesson or whatever the place was, and it was to let people know that you were part of the thing. It was kind of like a little, I guess, ID. I don't know what the point. It was basically to say like she's here for a lesson. If you're curious to what happens, I can give you an idea. If you don't want to hear about it, I'll put a trigger warning. But basically my dad ends up getting a pair of tweezers and a sewing needle and he goes over to the oven and he puts it over the like stove to disinfect it. And I remember, a part of me remembers this on the same day and I'm hoping this is true because I remember we got home and my sister had made banana smoothies and she had left some for me and my dad and I ended up having some while my dad was kind of trying to figure out what to do. And I don't think I had a shower, but I feel like I might have had a shower and I had to stick my leg out or something. But I ended up going out to the front room and my dad had disinfected the tweezers and a sewing needle and I remember drinking this smoothie and my dad was like, all right, come sit on the floor, and he was trying to make sure he had good enough lighting. He tried to figure out how to do it and he couldn't get it from me sitting like upwards, sticking my foot up. So he was like, you're gonna have to roll over because I can't get it out like that because the way that it was sticking out. And I'll put like this is gonna be the weirdest thing I'm ever gonna do. I'm gonna put a photo up. I'm gonna put a photo up of a foot and I'll put an arrow to where the thing was so you can get an idea. Because my dad could not get this thing out. He was like, the way it's sticking out, I need you to roll over so it's going upwards. And I panicked, I kicked, I was trying to stay still, but I was so freaked out. You know, I was like, I couldn't see what was going on, I was really freaked out. It got out, my dad took it out, I survived, I still have my toe. That's cool. I had to wear a giant bandage on my toe for a very long time and I had to keep putting antiseptic stuff on. And I still have my toe, but where I've had the splinter, also the other thing as well was it was slightly rusted. yeah, I mean that's gonna make sense since it was a bit of metal sitting at the bottom of the pool, but now every time I see rust I get so uncomfortable. Like rust makes me feel so like I don't want to touch it. Like touching anything that's rusty makes me feel like I'm gonna get another one. Where on my toe I had the splinter, the skin is slightly thick, and I was like, oh, maybe it's just the way that my foot is, like maybe it's because I'm wearing shoes and like it's just done that. The other toe doesn't have it, and it's not like a calloused bit of, I guess it kind of is a calloused bit of skin, but it's not like flaky or white, it's just kind of thick. And apparently that's very normal for like trauma, like from the body to do, where if you have any trauma with your feet, skin can grow back thicker to hopefully prevent it from happening again. So I still have my toe, and yeah, I have been in pools, like swimming pools, since the incident, but I haven't done a swimming lesson since. Actually after the swimming lesson I kind of stopped going, and the thing is I didn't realise how long it had been until me and Dad went to go drop off our old car at the car dealership so Dad could go pick up his new one. I remember looking in the like little cup holder, and the bracelet from the swimming centre was still there, and it was years later, and me and Dad were like, we're going to be getting rid of this car. And I was like, wow, it's been so long since I've seen that bracelet, like it was insane. And I guess like that time period I'd signed up for was about to end, and I think because of the incident I decided to just let it go. And then I was doing sports through my primary school, and then in high school I started doing heaps of other sports. Like I did soccer. I used to train like primary school kids on how to do soccer and how to dribble balls and all the kind of techniques you have to learn. And then I would also do like archery. Archery was one of my favorites. I also did volleyball. I did basketball. Did not baseball. What was the other one we used to do? At my primary school we used to do another one. Like it was like softball. Was it softball? We used to do that. That was really fun. I remember doing that, and it was a really cloudy day. And I remember it was reminding me, because this is how old I am. I was in my last year of primary school, and Twilight came out, and I remember watching Twilight movie, and then we played softball, and it was a really gloomy day, and it reminded me of that scene in Twilight where they're playing baseball, and I was like, it's giving Twilight. Alright, so that is my story time. I hope you guys liked this video. It was kind of nice to just sit down and tell a story with you guys. So hopefully you guys liked this video, and if you did, give a video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time for another one. Bye!